Welcome to the Wow Women podcast Success Circles, where we believe success leaves clues. I'm Tracy Sofra, founder of Wow Women Group.
So I started Financy, as you know, many years ago, and it's grown through just consistency, I suppose, is one of the key things I've learned in business, is just being consistent and persistent. And that's what I'd say it's grown by. So I started Financy, a women's money blog, back in 2016, shortly after the birth of my second daughter, where I was in meant to be in a really happy space and frame of mind, but being sleep deprived as a mum, it just got the better of me, so I was quite flat. So I felt like, as I'd always been a journalist, I wrote my way out of a hole, so to speak, and I just started writing more and more about what I was passionate about, and that is women and money, women and their money. So I'd worked for the Fin Review for many years and in financial journalism before that, and I felt that there was always a need there to write more for women about women's issues, and having another daughter just kind of gave rise to me writing more and more about it. And the blog's kind of grown from there, and experimented along the way. The key thing that happened for us was in 2017, I launched the Women's Index, and that's a quarterly benchmark that actually looks at the financial progress of Australian women. And that's been hugely successful in the sense that it's allowed the conversation around women and money to be more amplified, be more topical, and really pull apart the data that we already have available, but put it in a way that we can actually look at the picture of women and start to answer the question, are we going forward or not? Where are we actually not progressing, and what do we need to do about it? What can policymakers do about it, businesses do about it, and individuals? So that for me was the key thing that happened for Financy, and as a result of that, my content journey has just taken on a life of its own. And I now have columns in the Fin Review, Yahoo Finance, Elle Magazine, Audrey Day, and I'm about to start my own podcast series as well through Who Magazine. So it's kind of just all taking on another life, which is really exciting.
It was going to be my next question about the Financy Women's Index, because I did find when I read it and when I looked at it, as you say, it's information that we know, but it's not necessarily put in a way that resonates with anyone or creates any clarity around it. And it is really, really informational, and it's so important to bring that front of mind, if you like.
Yeah, it really is. And I think in the past there hasn't really been the appetite in the media to look purely at women for women's sake. I don't know. And I think that's maybe because until that your Me Too's and your Time's Up really amplified that social change, we knew there were issues there that we could perhaps be reaching women more on in terms of money, but there wasn't the social triggers for women to listen, for business to listen enough. And regardless of what you think about those movements, what they did was energize talk on women's issues, and in particular where economic and financial equality sit and how they affect these ways that women see themselves through financial independence, through dependence, and through confidence. And that's why money is so pivotal, and being better with it can really help boost your sense of financial independence and ultimately freedom. Yeah.
That's exactly. I couldn't say it any better. I mean, I sit here, I get goosebumps when you're saying that, because I do believe, and I think the only path to freedom is through money, because without economic empowerment, you're forever tied to something or someone or somewhere. And historically speaking, women were raised to be looked after, or depend on a man, or you know, the boss or the job, or something else, and that's just the way it was. But yes, those movements did amplify that. It's interesting to me that it you know, those movements happened. How many years ago were they?
They're only about 2 years ago now, really.
Doesn't that astound you?
Not even.
You know, where have we been all this time?
Well, I think we've been more dismissive. And, you know, I say we've like we're this big collective and we all think the same. We all think differently and have different levels of resonance with all of it. But I think many women have had enough for a long time. But where women in the past have let each other down is we haven't, in many cases, necessarily backed women. There's always, in some social spaces, been a tendency to back men, stand by your man kind of thing. And we haven't necessarily backed women, and we've second guessed even things that we know. But I think with the Time's Up and Me Too, there was as Oprah Winfrey often said in some of her shows, there was an aha moment, or like that's actually happened to me. Like these are things that are actually not okay. And I mean, we're talking a lot here about harassment and things like that, but more broadly speaking, whether or not that happened to you or not, you may have known someone that it happened to, or it just got you thinking. And when we talk about bring the money conversation into it all, we know that a lot of financial abuse or abuse situations have a finance linkage that often makes it difficult to leave. And I think what those movements did was just, they kind of brought together a groundswell of all these different conversations that were already happening that empowered and allowed women to connect with other issues that might have been not fair, or they feel like they suddenly had the motivation to take greater control over. So I like to, you know, I'm cognizant in a lot of the things that I write that it's easy to generalize and we all have different views, but these movements sometimes activate triggers in us in all different directions, and I think that's what it's done with respect to women and money.
Well, I'm pleased it has, and so can I ask you, what do you see coming? Do you have a vision of, or do you have a dream, or do you have a vision of what you think's coming in the next 5 to 10 years? How do you think we're going?
I think when we look at the women's index, we expect to achieve what we define as financial equality sometime in the next decade, so at least 12 years away. That's probably shorter than some measures put it out there, and that is the result of the definitions that we put on financial equality might be slightly different. So in some cases, I hear reports of gender parity never being achieved for 100 years and things like that. A lot of the measures that we look at on gender pay are on there being equal full-time work representation to women and men. But with the index, we're taking the view that not every woman is going to want to work full-time. She may want to work part-time, or just the way work is going is the nature of full-time work and part-time work as we know it is changing so rapidly that that comparing us to men and deeming that where men have it as the ideal is not necessarily going to get us to economic equality quick. But
that's interesting.
If we be real, what we're saying is a bit more realistic about what potentially women might want, that they not all will want full-time work, but perhaps we might get to 70% of the men, of that number of men in full-time work as being 70% of that tally as being representative of women, then that is part of that financial equality picture that we've put together, because we've got a Financy Women's Index progress target, and it's that has it at 70% of full-time representation of male full-time employment. So I actually think that the future actually looks quite bright, but what it requires is this momentum to continue, and that's where it can easily be challenged any kind of year, any quarter as we track it, because unless we have progressive government, or unless we keep these momentums going ourselves and keep pushing ourselves, then that target won't be realised as soon as we hope it could potentially be. So when we set this 12-year figure, that's on the back of this extraordinary momentum that we've just come out of with all this social change. Yeah. So for that to be achieved, we need this momentum to continue, and we need to be realistic about what women want in terms of working, the work hours they want to do, and having that family balance, and the nature of the work they want to do. Like, I work probably a full-time week, but by definition it's probably part-time hours, but I'm all over the place juggling kids and doing all these other things to make that work for me. So I don't fit the mold of this full-time work credentials that that the statistics capture. Hang on one second.
And in terms of what work, you mentioned it before, in terms of what work looks like, yes, that in itself is changing dramatically.
Yes.
You know, the normal 9 to 5 office is not the norm anymore. So lots of new businesses, progressive businesses, work all over the world, and they meet such as this on a Zoom call. So
yeah,
when we look into the future and are visionary, we've got to take all of that on board. And with the explosion of the internet, it's given women huge power to do all sorts of things that we never had. I mean, if a woman wanted to work prior to the internet, she had to leave the home. She doesn't have to leave the home anymore. It's extraordinary what the opportunities that lay ahead.
Yes.
But can I just ask you, like, okay, so we're off the back of these two momentous movements.
Yeah.
What about the next generation? Are they on board? Is it just, can I mention my generation? You know, is it just me and my generation, or my mother's generation, who are much older, that are coming through the ranks and you know, we were brought up in a different time? Are the new girls going to, you know, grab the flag and forge forward with this?
I think girls growing up today have a similar experience to what we had. There's still the social, cultural biases that happen, you know, throw like a girl. I still hear stuff like that in the playground in my daughter's school.
Yes.
And I am hopeful that though, with more awareness and TV campaigns and things that we see, that will start to call that out for what that is. It's derogatory. So we're still facing many of these issues, but our barometer has been reached, so we're more willing to call those out, rather than dismiss them. And I think older generations have dismissed those because we've had to. So where I'm hopeful of us going for younger girls and for boys growing up is that, and this is going to be really interesting, you've got girls growing up who are more career-minded, who are more thinking of work, and in many ways they're probably not going to have children till much later. So what starts to happen is, all of a sudden when they do have kids, they're thinking on not going back to work is really going to be challenged, because they've grown up in much the way boys have grown up today, thinking that they will always work, or thinking that they can have both. They can work, and, you know, because they're seeing women today already doing that. So it's going to be really interesting. I think ultimately what it is girls growing up today are seeing a greater level of opportunity available to them. And for boys, it means that they may not necessarily be growing up thinking they have to be the sole breadwinner, that they may think a little bit differently, that they'll be the dad for a period, they're or, you know, for whatever, their lives.
Isn't that brilliant?
Yeah. So it's going to be really, that's already happening. I have discussions with some mums of boys, and one of them kind of said the other day that, you know, he's not planning on working. He's just going to be the stay-at-home dad, and he's really happy and looking forward to that. So he's already looking for that woman to role reverse, or, you know, to what it has been traditional. So it's just different ways of thinking that these little things are happening. And I think we are going to see that change. We need to be supportive of that change and help girls, and this is what the index does, help girls see the opportunities and the pathways, financial pay packet pathways that will help them get ahead, and see that leadership is also an option where you can be a parent and still be a leader. And also see career paths where, yes, you may not want to be that leader, but this might be a career pathway that allows you to be mum and to earn a decent income at the same time, thanks to the internet largely too.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So just off the back of that, how has your professional ambition affected your personal life?
That's an interesting, because I never thought I'd have children. So I grew up always very career focused, probably a little bit too much, and thinking of career before even travel and stuff like that now I'm really wanting to do more of with my kids. So my career affecting my personal life, I feel like what happened to me was I was shocked by just how much I love being a mum. And I love being a mum. It's my favorite job, as I say to my kids. It's my favorite thing. So I'm not quite 100% sure how to answer it, because I feel like it's the other way around. My personal life has affected my career in a way that's a really positive thing, but it's not how I thought it was going to be. That I never expected. Yeah.
That's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, because I never grew up thinking I was going to be a mum.
So it wasn't on your barometer. You were a career girl, and then one day you fell in love and had kids. Is that how it happened?
Well, I fell in love, but I still wasn't going to get married. And then I eventually thought, no, I actually do want to have children. Then I'd already booked my first daughter into a daycare centre from 3 months. I thought, well, that will, you know, that's what people are doing. That must be what I can do. And I love my job, so I'll try to do both. And then I met this little girl, and I just realised I just couldn't leave. I still went back to the office, but I was lucky, because I say lucky, and I shouldn't say lucky at all, because I was still working. But I was grateful to Fairfax for allowing me to work half the time at home and half the time in the office. So I still loved that office contact and meeting people, and I loved that. But I still got to have this wonderful time at home, a real balanced time at home with my kids, well, my daughter at the time, and that really challenged the way I thought I was going to be. And that's why when I go back to our quest for equality, we've got to recognise that not all women are going to want that 9 to 5 office kind of dynamic. The workforce is changing, and we're changing it. So yeah, it's changing quite rapidly, and I think be open to that as a parent, be open to that as a woman, and yeah.
But have the choice. Have the choice. I think it's all about choice. It's always been about choice, because we can't compartmentalise anybody, particularly in this day and age when there are so many other opportunities and options given how the world's changed. So having that choice to be able to do whatever you wanted to do at the time, and whatever anybody else wants, whether it's the 9 to 5 or whether it's taking time off to have kids at home. I mean, you can log in remotely now. I can log in remotely from my home and work. Really, where you are placed doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, choice is an interesting one because, and from a money point of view with women, choice can be genuine and it can be really heavily influenced by the way you've been brought up to think that, well, I'm going to go into nursing because I feel like that's the only career path for me to give me that flexibility to later life, or I want to care. That's the kind of career path I want. Choice can be really influenced by all that we already know or don't know that we know, the world around us, our family, so much by bias. There's a lot of bias that affects choice. And yes, it can be absolutely genuine. This is what I want to do. I know wholeheartedly that it's my choice. I feel like when it comes to careers, we've got to really help women to see a broader range of available opportunities that are out there for them to make more informed choices. And I think that's so critical to enhancing your own financial position, because it's one thing to choose a pathway that you think is going to get you there, but what if you knew that this is a trending pathway to help you earn in excess of what you ever thought was possible, or it's a trending pathway that's going to allow you to have that workplace flexibility at home? When you start to have all these opportunities and think a little bit broader about the choices that are available, and I'd encourage parents of kids, boys or girls, to really talk about the expansion of the workforce. When you think more broadly about those choices, you really lift the lid on what it is you can become, what it is you can earn, and how then you may wish to spend and invest that money that you get. Yeah, choice is a topic I could talk forever on.
That's really interesting. Now you've just blown the lid on the word choice that I mentioned, but I didn't actually think of it in.
Well, but you're right in the way you say it. You know, we all have this power to choose, and a lot of the time when I'm going a little bit broader and probably digressing myself, but often when we talk about the gender pay gap and superannuation gap and things like that, and staying at home to care for kids, a lot of the time it's easy for people to say, oh, but you chose that. But often all I'm saying is, did you really choose that because it's all you wanted or all you knew, or is that the best choice you had in a box of choices?
Good question.
So
yes.
I'm just saying we need to just question choice a little bit and make sure that if you're going to question choice yourself right now and you're listening to this, just ask yourself, is there more that I'd like to know about in order to make a more informed choice about my career?
Yeah.
And then start expanding your network, be that through social media, be that through your financial advisor. You know, are your investment choices enough? Is my tax return enough? Should I be asking a little bit more about, is my handbag tax deductible? Is there more here that I'm not aware of that I could be maximizing? And I think when we start to do that more as women, then you really start to have greater choices. And with that comes power, because you feel so much more confident from it.
That's brilliant. And I guess it sort of, while you're saying all that, I'm thinking, you know, the old saying, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So you're saying be curious and ask.
Yes.
And don't be afraid to ask.
And don't be afraid to ask. Don't be fearless. That's my biggest why in life, is to try to encourage women to be fearless and to be questioning. You know, just be questioning.
Why?
Is there more that we can do here? Is there another side hustle I can do to earn that little bit extra?
Yeah.
Is there more I could be saving? You know.
I love that. I was having a conversation with a girlfriend last week, and she spoke about fear, and she said most people are scared all of the time. And
yes.
I just sort of stepped back and thought, oh, really? Are we?
Yeah.
So that's got me thinking, and I've been thinking about that ever since. And now you've brought up the fearless thing. So it's really interesting. It's an interesting one to sort of look back at yourself, reflect on your own self, and go, well, you know, in my day-to-day life, what am I fearful of? Or in the way that I look at life, what am I fearful of? What's holding me back? Because I guess fear is what holds you back. And people say, what would you do if you weren't scared? Or if you knew you couldn't fail. So, yeah, really challenging questions, but maybe for another conversation.
But the main thing to take from that, rather than getting bogged down by that, is if you were to jot down what your fears are and just acknowledge what they are, then you do have a little bit, you have a bit of enlightenment to move forward. And
awareness, I think that's really important.
I think it's a very first step. It's important to know what that is.
Yeah.
You know, because you can't be fearless unless you acknowledge that you have some fear around, you know, it might even be just looking at your bank statement. I know I've gone through periods where I just rather put that thing in the bin.
Yeah.
But that's something that facing up to and looking at gives me a greater sense of accountability. It gives me greater confidence at the end of the day. It could even be social media, putting yourself out there with your business. You know, often we're afraid to just ask the question, ask for funding, ask for support, ask for customers, you know.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. So can I ask you about who are your personal heroes, and why do you hold them in such high regard? Do you have any personal heroes?
Mine are my connections. My personal heroes list is growing. So at the most intimate level, of course, for me is my husband, and that's just because through thick and thin, he's supported my ambition with Financy when it's been completely non-income producing. And I think that takes a lot for a partner to do, because you do get to a point where you see people starting out in business and you may start to wonder, well, is this just a hobby you have? Is it ever going to get anywhere? Maybe you need to give up. Never once have I had that from him ever. And for me, it's taught me a lot about myself, because I think I may have been that person that said, well, maybe you might need to try something else. But so when you have someone that really believes in what you were really passionate about, it is so motivating. It's so uplifting. And for me, that's, to have a partner like that is something really special. My mother's like that anyway. So I grew up in a house where I was always encouraged rather than discouraged. So
you were brought up in a positive environment.
Well, it wasn't a positive environment, but her frame of mind was positive. You know, that probably sounds a bit too harsh, but at times it certainly wasn't positive. Financially, it was dire most of the time when my parents divorced, and even before that, when you're growing up, when all you hear about is the financial stress of 18% mortgage rates during the 90s. That was a hideous time for arguments and you know, eventually divorce. So it was never really, that was.
But she never wavered from that was her. She never wavered from that positive mindset that she had, because positive people react in those positive ways with their kids. The uplifting part is what I'm talking about.
Yes, they do. But for her journey was always probably as a bubbly personality who then sadly got very depressed until she realised she had to leave the relationship she was in. It wasn't productive for either party. And then just, you know, she just couldn't let herself go into that negative frame of mind, because it doesn't get you anywhere except the wallow, and then you just feel stuck. And it's hard to see when you're in it, but it's because of not wanting to be there and having been there that she chooses the positive frame of mind. So as a parent, when you have a child that's questioning, like I always was, to have someone always reinforcing and making me believe was incredibly motivating. So I have two on the home front, two personal heroes that helped me just to keep going. But I'm inspired by many business women that are out there, a growing network, and just people that really believe. One of my mentors is Connie McKay, who runs OneView, and she's just been a believer in me since the day dot, since I met her, even before working at the Fin Review. So it's having people like that who like your ideas or your passion really helps you keep going. So my circle on that note is not overly big, but it's a circle that I really am grateful for. Yeah.
And I guess they're not meant to be big, are they?
No. Well, I mean, I suppose you're lucky if you've got a really, really big one, but as long as they're people that you can really trust, that's what's got to matter, doesn't it?
That's what's got to matter, without a doubt, at the end of the day. So my final question to you is, there are things that we do that we think, oh, that's just easy. Everybody does that, don't they? So it's called ordinary. So what is ordinary to you could be extraordinary to me. So what is your superpower?
What's ordinary to me?
Well, what's ordinary to you that the rest of us go, that's extraordinary, Bianca. So that's your superpower, more or less. It's just stuff that we take for granted that we do with our eyes closed, and we assume that everybody else does the same, don't they?
I don't know if oh gosh, you got me on the spot here. I
could be the way that you look at things. It could be the way that you express yourself. It could be your innate gut instinct about situations, that you think everybody gets that, but everybody doesn't.
Well, I maybe I have two. I like to think that somehow I get stuff done with a house of chaos and kids, and run a business around it. And sometimes I'm just not sure how I get it done, but I'm just of the mindset always that if I just chip away, all I've got to do is chip and just keep chipping and chip every single day and make time for play. So that's what I kind of live by daily. If I can make time for play and just keep chipping away, then I will get there. And so I'm
the superpower, Bianca. That I've got two kids, and I tried to do that, and I can vouch for the fact that is the superpower that I don't have.
Well, I don't. Yeah. Well, it's a mindset. It's a real mindset, and it's having to have that active mindset, because there's honestly times when I'm producing the Women's Index, because it's such a beast of a report now. It's doubled in size over the past 2 years, and it's growing. I often finish it with an eye twitch. I have a complete emotional breakdown. I cried over our goldfish the other quarter. It always takes me to the brink, and I always start it not knowing if I can finish it.
But you start it, don't you?
I start it, and I just chip away.
Yep.
And
that's brilliant.
And it's just with when I'm in it and working on anything like that, it has to have the focus, and that's what's really important. And it's the same with play. If I don't give my kids that focus, then I know it, and you don't feel rewarded either way, as a mum or as an employee or as a business person. So it's having that focus is really important, and just chipping away and making time to play.
And being able to shift that focus is really, really difficult. I personally find that quite difficult to shift that focus, particularly when you're doing the type of work that you're doing. It needs an intense level of concentration, an in-depth level of concentration, and that's not something you kind of snap in and out of, is it?
No, it's not. And when you're doing a creative line of work, or gosh, it doesn't have to be creative, it could be numbers. You get on a roll, and when you're diverted from that, it gets hard to get I like to call it the zone, and I can write write like the wind when I'm in the zone, but it's making sure you're stuck in that zone, then you're fine. I actually, if I know I'm not in it, and my best writing times are always early in the mornings, I don't even bother. I don't even bother writing. I just park it and be with the kids or something else, rather than
push through.
No, yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying give up. I'm just saying you've got to have that space and that mindset there. And if you don't, it can be really difficult to focus. Yeah.
Yeah.
But don't discard it. Just chip it at the next window.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I love the zone. I love getting in the zone, but it takes me quite a while to get in the zone, because I call that a deep level of concentration. And I remember when I was at uni studying, it would take me a good half an hour to get to that depth, that true depth of being able to just absorb.
Yes.
Yep.
I recommend finding the time slots that work for you. So as I said, I write best in the morning. So if I have to get up at 4 or 5 to write,
you will.
Then that's when I will write well.
Yep.
But yeah, late at night when the kids are in bed, I don't even bother. I might do some prep, but I know that that's not when I'm able to produce my best headline or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. So knowing yourself, what works for you, is critical to getting in the zone.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It definitely is. And that gets better with age, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Bianca, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your pearls of wisdom, and it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you, particularly when we're so passionate about the same thing. I just want to say thanks, and
thank you.
Yeah, keep doing what you're doing, because it's, the chipping away, you said, if you chip away and I chip away and we all chip away, we have a greater impact on the world.
Absolutely.
So, thank you for your time, Bianca.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you.